I would assume a lot of the young people that have been involved in these protests would have at one point supported Bernie Sanders, and certainly his silence on Trump's announcement of deploying the military has been deafening. What's has he said anything about the protests? What's his position on them, and what do young people think of him now?
I think that's the Sanders experience was just monumental for a whole generation of young people. You know, they were attracted to him initially because of his rhetoric. I mean, he appealed to people on the basis of class questions. I mean, especially in the beginning, where his rhetoric was a bit more radical sounding. I mean, he talked about the political revolution or attack on the billionaire class. He talked about the abolition of student debt. I mean, nothing that he ever had any intention of carrying out. He knew full well that these things were not possible, but people were really attracted to that genuinely. And you know, I think that in and of itself is significant. But now, I mean, the truth of the matter is that we've been through the Sanders experience twice now. And I think what's striking, though, you know, entirely predictable, is that is really just how kind of vapid and vacuous it all turned out to be. Sanders' entire political career was under the banner of the political revolution, and it's now ended in a fawning endorsement of Joe Biden. And I mean, you know, you take kind of the broader picture, his role in the past 5 years was to promote Hillary Clinton, and now it's to promote Joe Biden. But I think that really even now, as it's come to an end, Sanders' program doesn't even have really the character of even significant social reform. You asked what his response to this has been. I mean, I think that Dave said it in the beginning, that he's really largely been silent, which is pretty remarkable. When he has spoken, it's been very empty calls for, I mean, I think the most he could muster was a police reform. Defunding the police, you know, things that the defunding of the police is not really going to happen on any fundamental level, and he knows that. And I think that young people are smart. They've been watching this. I think a lot of people didn't buy into his campaign the second time. They learned their lesson after Hillary Clinton. For those who did support him again, I think that they were skeptical. And when he supported Joe Biden, there was a lot of disillusionment. I think that that really his left cover has been blown. I mean, you really just consider just the fact in and of itself that he ended his campaign under conditions in which capitalism was being exposed on a world scale. I mean, there was an immense opposition brewing, which we're now seeing erupt onto the streets. And that's the very point at which where he stepped in to provide a cover for the Democratic Party and for the capitalist system. And since the end of his campaign, I mean, what has he done? He gave this endorsement of Joe Biden. He didn't issue a single criticism. He then went into the Associated Press and slandered his supporters as irresponsible. For all those who said that they weren't going to vote for Biden. His top advisors created a super PAC to funnel all the resources into supporting Biden. They composed these phony task forces that's Biden and Sanders coming together. That's supposed to create the illusion that Sanders has some representation. And then they had this other event where, you know, Sanders basically issued a warning to all of his delegates that they could be removed if they had any criticism of Biden publicly. So, you know, I think that he really stands completely exposed for what he is, which is a Democratic Party politician. And what's really critical is that young people and workers who have been through these experiences really draw broader conclusions from this. And I think that above all, what really needs to be understood is that not a single step forward can be taken within the Democratic Party. It's the oldest capitalist party in the US. Workers and youth need their own party. They can't be fooled again by empty slogans from demagogues. And there's going to be more. The ruling class will put forward other figures. But that there really needs to be a political mobilization of the working class and a party that represents that, which is the Socialist Equality Party.